GCCA pavilion for those that are physically here. Welcome to those online. We are broadcasting this event both live, and then there'll be a recording of it on the GCCA website as well, so you can share with colleagues into the future, which is good. So it's my great privilege on behalf of the GCCA to really host the Azerbaijan cement industry on this really important moment for them. We have a range of really highly honoured speakers, so welcome ladies and gentlemen and honoured guests. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. So we're here really to launch the Azerbaijan cement industry Net Zero Roadmap. I'm Paul Adeleki. I work for the Global Cement and Concrete Association. I'm the Strategy and Communications Director. And of course, I'll be your moderator today. You're not here to listen to me. What struck me as I came to through Baku is what a modern, vibrant city this is, and it is cement and concrete that have been able to help transform this amazing and beautiful city that are hosting. And so it really is a great privilege for us to host your event. Can I introduce you to our first speaker, ready to give a formal welcome to this event, and that is Israel Azaliev. He is the chief executive of the Azerbaijan Cement Association, and he's also head of industry at Nexol Holdings and a board member of Norm, who are one of the Azerbaijan cement producers. He's part of the Harvard Business Program, a very long and distinguished career as a leader. Israel, over to you to formally launch us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for accepting the Global Cement and Concrete Association and Azerbaijan Cement Producers Association invitations and coming today. Welcome to the presentation of Net Zero Accelerator program. We are very grateful to all parties. I will name who are supporting us on our the way. First of all, Azerbaijani state institutions like Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources, Ministry of Economy, Minister of Emergency Situations, Minister of Energy, State Committee on Urban Planning and Architecture, and many other state organizations. We are very grateful to European Cement Research Academy for making this project into reality. I am personally grateful for Azerbaijan Cement Producer Association company members, their CEOs, project teams, Elmar Bey for making the project reality. And of course, very great thanks to Global Cement and Concrete Association for supporting us for the whole project and for hosting this event. It's no coincidence that Azerbaijan is the first in the region in the development of Net Zero Accelerator program. So I will bring just one example. Azerbaijan cement industry is the first among the world cement producers and other industries in Azerbaijan due to use of waste as a raw material. So almost limestone waste of dozens of stone quarries, waste of mining industries, waste of metallurgy are actively using for the last years, I would say. And now we have ongoing projects of using waste of oil and gas industry and household waste. So it's long journey which our company started much more years ago, and now we are at the start of the even bigger journey, and today is the first step. Thank you very much that you are with us. Thank you and welcome again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the global cement industry was the first in the world, first global industry really to set out a global pathway to net zero, a credible pathway. And it's great that Azerbaijan is one of the first in the CIS to follow. And it's been a privilege to work with them. And now I want to introduce you to our CEO, Tom Aguillo. I'll just ask him to sit down first. But first, before he does, we have a number of really distinguished people to go through. I want to talk to you about Ilham Nazarov, who is advisor to the Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources. He has an MBA from the University of UK and a Master's in Ecology and E-Commerce. Chairman of a number of different bodies within Azerbaijan and a very distinguished career in the oil and gas sector as well. To say a few words on behalf of the Minister of Ecology. Ilham, please. And just go through here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here with you to address this very high-level forum on behalf of the Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources. So, we gather at this significant forum to discuss sustainability and future of our planet, a future where a resilient net zero world must be more than an aspiration, it must be a certainty. Therefore, Azerbaijan sets serious targets and commitments towards achieving Paris Agreement goals. As you can see on the slide, we have got some formal commitments taken there. But this is a moving target. As we see an opportunity to improve, we definitely take necessary measures to do so and update our targets and NDCs. So these commitments are not cemented, to use a session-relevant term. They're being reviewed from time to time, and Azerbaijan will soon update its national targets in line with 1.5-degree goal, and low emissions long-term development strategy is being prepared now. We are trying to set ambitious goals, but at the same time we want to be realistic and be able to achieve the goals. Because saying things may be easier than doing, and we are keen on maintaining good reputation and trust. As I often say, trust is something that you gain over time, and it's easy to lose in one go. So therefore, unlike renewables, trust is not renewable. Once it is gone, it's gone. So we should be careful not to overpromise as well. Azerbaijan has well prepared for COP29 and did a lot of work prior to the start of these meetings. And we negotiated various important deals with other parties to the Conference of Parties. As a result, on the first day of COP29, parties reached consensus on standards for the creation of carbon credits under Article 6.4 of the Paris Agreement, which is very, very important milestone. The main sources of emissions in our country, as well as, I believe, globally, are power generation, industry, and transportation. The territories liberated 4 years ago have been declared green energy zones. This means that every kilowatt of power generated in that region will come from green sources like hydropower, solar, and wind stations. Since the liberation in Karabakh, many hydropower stations have been already commissioned and operational there. The potential of renewable energy sources in Azerbaijan is around 300 gigawatts, and about 65 gigawatt of that has been identified as commercially feasible. In order to take advantage of this potential, we are now implementing large-scale renewable energy projects with various private companies attracting foreign investments. For example, BP-led 240 megawatt solar power plant project in Jabrayil is underway, and I'm sure some of you have seen that groundbreaking ceremony that was broadcast during this COP on the second day of the COP, sorry. There are many other renewable energy projects being planned, developed in country with capacities ranging from 100 megawatt to 10 gigawatt over the next few years. Well, general fiscal incentives introduced by the government to increase the number of electric vehicles by eliminating VAT and import duties for electric vehicles and charging stations is paying off. We are seeing an EV boom in country. The number of electric vehicles sold last year is 19 times bigger than the number sold just 2 years before. Within the last 2 months, a new car utilization plant has been commissioned, and it is helping to get old cars off the street, the old cars with high emission, being recycled. Increasing greenery is another measure we are using very effectively to accelerate net zero goals. We have taken a target of restoring 270,000 hectares of forest by 2030. Protecting green areas is very important and very challenging too. With global warming, we see a rising number of forest fires globally. We are taking the matter very seriously, and we can proudly say that due to well-managed preventive measures, we had no major forest fires in 2024, despite unusually hot summer. I should say 14% of Azerbaijan is covered by forest, so we do have some greenery, which may be at the risk, but so far we have been doing well. We're also working with industries to urge public and private companies to reduce emissions. As you know, our ministry is responsible for monitoring and regulating the mining industry in Azerbaijan. The mining industry is very CO2 intensive, as you know. We are developing greener mining standards and trying to push mining companies operating in Azerbaijan to employ new greener technologies and practices that will allow diminishing carbon emissions. The construction sector, which is always a significant pillar of economy in every country, is also a big emitter of carbon emissions. And cement industry is probably the biggest part in supply chain of construction industry. And as far as I know, the cement industry accounts for around 7% of global CO2 emissions, with a global production volume of over 4 billion tons of cement and 14 billion cubic meters of concrete produced annually. So demand growth is anticipated there globally, which makes shifting towards greener production highly urgent in this industry. Moving from linear economy to circular one can make a huge positive impact, and we expect cement producers to employ that tactics. Achieving transition in industries and energy generation requires not only technical advancements, but also collaborative financial mechanisms. In this regard, the Climate Finance Action Fund, which Azerbaijan suggested, is going to play a significant role and will redefine how we approach climate financing. This is one of the initiatives that Azerbaijan put forward at this COP. The fund is envisioned as a transformative instrument. Through this fund, we seek to bridge the climate finance gap by involving both fossil fuel producing countries and companies. The initiative represents an essential shift that incorporates income-generating investments targeted at developing economies and that actively promotes projects with measurable climate benefits. By prioritizing climate-positive investments, we are not simply mitigating risk, but also fostering a transition towards renewables, promoting green diversification, and creating a pathway to economic resilience. Azerbaijan, recognizing the gravity of this moment, has proudly committed an initial $40 million to the CFAF. This initial contribution reflects our commitment to climate action and our recognition of the importance of collective funding. The Republic of Azerbaijan sees its investment in CFAF fund as a mechanism to drive development in alignment with our vision for a diversified, resilient economy, an economy that draws upon clear energy and innovative solutions. This fund will not merely allocate capital, it will direct that capital towards transformative projects that drive decarbonization and spur the technological breakthroughs needed for a sustainable future. And equally noteworthy is the fund's commitment to inclusivity in climate finance. Of the income generated by fund, 20% will be directed to small islands and least developed countries, addressing an urgent need for climate adaptation funding in regions that bear the disproportionate impacts of climate change. In the context of our national goals, Azerbaijan's alignment with CFAF complements our broader policy of fostering sustainable economic growth. We are transitioning towards greener, climate-resilient industries, and in doing so, building pathways for Azerbaijan's industrial sector to emerge as both a contributor and beneficiary of the global green economy. Through our investments in clean technology, R&D, and job creation within the renewable energy sector, Azerbaijan is setting a standard for responsible, sustainable development in the region. Additionally, we're committed to fostering green skills, which is very important because green technologies are good, but you need someone to implement those technologies. Investing in capacity building, ensuring that our workforce is equipped to drive and sustain the green transition within our industrial sectors and beyond. Our climate commitments extend beyond the boundaries of funding and infrastructure. We are fostering an ecosystem in which sustainable practices are embedded within the fabric of our industrial operations, particularly in the cement industry. As we move forward, let this be an occasion to reaffirm our shared vision, our collective responsibility, and the imperative to align our industrial practices with the highest standards of ecological integrity. Together, through strategic investment, robust policy framework, and advanced technologies, we can achieve a decarbonized net zero future, ensuring a better world for future generations. With that, I will conclude my speech, thanking ASİA and others for putting together such a good event, such a nice event. I believe through such kind of events, many issues can be highlighted, discussed, and fixed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear the work that's going on in Azerbaijan that your ministry is leading. Many great examples, I think, that I heard there, many of which the cement industry needs, and that's what we're here for at COP, to talk about many of the policy, enabling policies that we need to really accelerate the industry's transition. I was quite interested in your development on renewable energy, and that's a nice link, actually, I hope, to our next speaker, Jabrail Aliyev, who is the head of project management at the Department of Azerbaijan Renewable Energy Agency, with a really strong career in leadership right across sort of the renewables. So, Jabrail, if you could come up and say a few words from your department's perspective. Thank you so much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome everyone here in Baku, where the remarkable COP29 ongoing here. And we are happy to host this COP29 because everybody comes here to discuss climate change negotiations and how we can reduce carbon emissions. And of course, we are also responsible for this process. My name is Jabrail Aliyev. As Paul said, I am head of the project implementation. Okay. Okay. My name. Okay.
Don't hold at the bottom.
Okay. Like this. My name is Jabrail Aliyev. I am head of the project implementation department in the Renewable Energy Agency, and I will talk today about how renewable energy sector development as a key of the energy transition process, and what's the government's role and how we can process these actions and what we can do so far. Firstly, I would like to start with the national priorities of Azerbaijan Republic. In 2021, by the decree of our president, Mr. Ilham Aliyev, Azerbaijan 2030 national priorities for the social economic developments have been approved, and you can see 5 main priorities which we have determined as a for the social economic development for future. And 5th is a clean environment and counter of green growth. It is one of these. And as a part of Azerbaijan 2030 vision, our country is aiming for a brighter and cleaner future where we don't just have a strong economy, we have also sustainable and fair economy for everyone. And green growth means moving towards energy sources that don't harm the environment. And we are also making sure that our economy remains competitive and resilient. And as Azerbaijan government, we are committed to reducing greenhouse gas emission up to 35% by 2030. Mr. Ilham Aliyev informed a lot about this topic, and now I would like to say that we are aligned at the level of domestic and international with our activities. And we are also seeing real progress in the renewable energy figures. For example, in 2020, renewable share was just 70% in the total installed energy capacity, but nowadays it is approximately 21%. But our aim to increase the share of renewable energy in the total installed energy mix approximately 30%. But today we are signing a lot of bilateral documents with the companies, and also their priorities, green growth, will allow us to achieve this goal even before than 2030. And we will achieve these figures more than this day. And of course, if, the development of renewable energy source is not impossible without the renewable energy potential. And Azerbaijan's favorable geographical location provides ample opportunities to the development of green energy in Azerbaijan. From the slides, you can see two types of potential. One on the left side, you can see the technical potential of renewable energy, and the right side, economical potential. Economical potential means that which renewable energy source we can use as a economically viable. And also, of course, to support the clean energy transition, we have put strong policies in the places. In 2021, the law on use of renewable energy source in the production of energy was approved, adopted. Also, according to this law, the secondary legislation documents such as auction rules and active consumer support mechanism guidelines was approved. Also, there's some agreement such as power purchase agreement, transmission connection agreements was prepared by the Minister of Energy. And currently these documents are driving the development of this sector. Also, as a Minister of Energy, we have signed several documents with the international companies, because our duty is create a environment for the investors. And today we see that investor comes to Azerbaijan and invest in the renewable energy sector. For example, thanks to these documents, last year in Azerbaijan there was a first small industry scale project, in the biggest was in the region. Governmental solar power was put into operation, and over the year through this power plant it has produced approximately 500,000 kilowatt electricity in this region, and it support to it is supplying approximately 110 houses with green electricity. If we are talking about green economy, green growth and environmental friendly technologies, it is also important to consider sectors that traditionally high polluters, like cement factory and etc. Today, during the discussions at this event, there will be focus on how cement plants can achieve net zero emission by 2050, and the target set by the companies will be clarified. And considering the environment, the use of carbon capture technologies during the production is deemed essential, and also by integrating renewable into their operations, companies in the cement and concrete sector can make a substantial impact in their carbon footprint. And public-private partnerships are crucial throughout these activities, this process. Together through these initiatives like Net Zero Roadmap, we can support that industries in making the shift toward cleaner energy source. At the end, I would like to thank everyone for their attention, and look forward to discussing how we can play all a part in building sustainable energy future for Azerbaijan, for the world. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your leadership, Ilhams, too. And it's interesting to hear at CCUS. It's one of the important levers for our sector, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. And I want to introduce our next keynote speaker, who is Orkan Mustafayev, who is representing the senior advisor for the business sector to the high-level champions. The high-level champions are something at a global level we've worked with for a number of years, both from the UK, Egypt, Dubai and the UAE, and now, of course, happy to work with you in Azerbaijan. He's worked in the industry as a leader, in terms of the commercial world, for 25 years. So a real wealth of experience. So please, ladies and gentlemen, Orkan Mustafa, I welcome you.
Thanks. Yes. All right, like that. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Thanks to the Cement Association who is organizing this event. We've been in touch for a long time. So, good morning, distinguished guests and colleagues, partners. It's an honor to be here today at this pivotal gathering, where we need to address one of the most critical issues of our time, achieving net zero, you could hear us. Good morning again, distinguished guests. It's a kind of pivotal moment for all of us to get together on this, to address one of the most challenging issues. It's addressing the net zero emissions and while ensuring a resilient and sustainable future for all. Nigar Arpadaray, who is our high-level climate champion, she sent her regards. Unfortunately, she couldn't participate, so I'm more in touch with a private sector engagement. I'm a senior advisor to her. I'm proud that yesterday it was a business and philanthropy forum where we managed to bring 1,200 companies from around the globe, and I think it's a huge success for our COP. Remember, as in the speech of our Mr. President, so for those who wanted to sabotage our COP, so we had some bad news for you. So, I mean, 1,200 companies from private sector who are going to lead the talk on the private sector and bringing the government on boards. Also, we need to think about the urgency of actions. So the numbers speak for themselves. I made some notes here. Global emissions must decrease by at least 43% by 2030 to stay within 1.5 Celsius target of a Paris Agreement. Yet the latest data tell us that emissions are not decreasing at the necessary scale. Particularly in the sectors, hard to abate sectors like cement, and which contribute, if I'm not mistaken, about 7-10% of global carbon emissions. This means we are not just running out of time, we are running out of excuses. Today's discussions and initiatives, such as the Net Zero Accelerator program, are no longer optional. They're, I think, imperative now. I always stress the role of a private sector, since in my subjective belief, the private sector holds the keys to innovation, scalability, and investments. Companies across the globe are committing to net zero targets, but the transition is complex, requiring all of us to collaboration at unprecedented level between, obviously, the industries, governments, and the civil society. The role of a high-level champion is to bring non-state actors, which is like industries and civil societies. The government is there. There's a strong commitment of Azerbaijani government to be a part of its agenda. Here at COP29, we are witnessing inspiring examples of business stepping up. Investments in alternative fuels and technologies are growing, with over $10 billion pledged globally for decarbonizing cement production. In Azerbaijan, renewable energy capacity is expected to double by 2030, supported by international partnership with companies like Aqua Power, Masdar, and others. But we hope to bring more. This is just the beginning. especially in solar and wind potential projects. Mr. President mentioned already 157 gigawatts of untapped potential opportunity in the Caspian Sea, a sector of Azerbaijan, as well as about 40 gigawatts on Azerbaijani territory. So which means that the Net Zero Accelerator program we are launching today represents a roadmap for the cement and concrete industry to align with these ambitious goals. It includes innovative strategies by reducing emissions through low carbon technologies, from carbon capture to storage to alternative fuels. Second is a circular economy principle, so promoting recycling and sustainable sourcing of materials, as well as collaborative frameworks, so ensuring businesses and policymakers work hand in hand. And I believe the private sector should lead the talk, should walk the talk. It's not, I mean, like it was before. We expect governments to do something on our behalf, and the private sector waits for call to action. No. I mean, it's private sector now to step actively on this. So this program is a testament to the fact that progress is possible when we act collectively and decisively. So, ladies and gentlemen, achieving net zero is not just a technical challenge, it's a leadership challenge. Today, I urge each of you to leverage your influence, expertise, and resources to accelerate change. The journey to net zero is not just about reducing emissions. It's just about creating new economic opportunities. And if we make this, if private sector believes that this is opportunity and not just the imperative coming from the governments, then I think we will have a true success story here. So it's about new economic opportunities. It's about protecting livelihoods. It's about building a future that all of us can be proud of. Together, let us take concrete actions that will turn ambition into achievement. Thank you for your commitment, for your energy, for your presence today. We had the World Leaders Summit over, and now it's the turn to private sector to step in. I think I've mentioned private sector 10 times already, but I'll be mentioning it all the time. So let's make this a turning point for the cement also and concrete sector. And thanks for the cement associations and other organizers for making this happen. So thank you all. Thank you, Paul. And let's move forward.
Thank you. It's great to hear you talking about partnerships, talking about leadership from the private sector. Absolutely. I think it was a previous high-level champion, Nigel Topping from the UK, that talked about radical collaboration, and I think really to move the dial, we need that real partnership, crisp partnership between industry and indeed governments. So just on behalf of the Global Cement Association, I'm going to introduce you now to Tom Aguirre, who is our CEO for the GCCA, and he'll talk to you a little bit about the work of the GCCA from a global perspective, and indeed the importance of radical collaboration. Thomas, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. I want to thank you, all the distinguished speakers before me. And if you remember, we met in New York. We had actually a discussion. So thank you for being here. That's very, very appreciative. So my goal here is to show you what GCCA is doing, and to have a little word of GCCA global perspective on the cement and concrete. So maybe we start with explaining what GCCA is doing on who we are. So I mean, basically, we are the Global Cement and Concrete Association. We have close to 50 members. The latest joining is Limak Cement from Turkey, actually. So you see, we have some very big companies, very big majors, as well as some smaller one plant company from Lebanon. Norm is also a member. I mean, we are very happy about that. And the commonalities of this is two things. One is leadership, as you said, the leadership of the private sector, the leadership into the climate transformation, the leadership on the net zero journey, sharing on having the pleasure to understand on work together on the transition. The second idea is really about working with the national partner, and we are as also a partner in the association representing all the national cement partner. And that's very important, and I will come back to that at the time to actually bring the global objectives to the local reality. So the vision we have in the GCCA is really about the transformation of concrete. So I mean, the word we say, we typically say, or I typically say that concrete is an essential product. It's essential for the modern society. I was giving yesterday in the Green Zone a reference to what I saw in Baku. And I have been living in Baku, not living, but I had enjoyed visiting Baku some 20 years ago. And I have to say that I was very impressed with the development of the city, very impressed with the infrastructure, with the buildings, with the cleanness of the city. And for me, it's really an illustration of what concrete also can do in the city. I mean, we see the impact, the social impact, the economical impact of the material on the population, on the government, on the nations. And that's what we are promoting in GCCA. We need to continue this, and as cement is an essential material, it is also essential to decarbonize cement. And that's why we are here, and that's why we have this collective commitment as an industry to actually work on make it happen for the decades to come. So how do we do that? We do that basically, and we have identified back in the Glasgow COP, you mentioned Nigel Topping, an objective on the roadmap with 7 levels to decarbonize the cement sector. I will not go in details, this will be done with Martin a little bit later today, but basically we see that it is possible. We see that it's possible, and we see that we have the means and the ambitions to get there. Now, a global roadmap is interesting, but what is really important is that, especially in cement and concrete, which is a local business, to have a commitment from the national association and the national parties. And that's where we launched back then the Net Zero Accelerator, the global, where we worked with the National Cement Association on the members to see how we can actually appropriate the reality of the transformation locally and make sure that we found and identified also the actions, the regulatory parties, the regulatory transformations, and the projects on the financial means to get to the transformation. And this is important, and we have been cooperating also with the UNIDO on Climate Club, and I was just actually launching the global matchmaking platform, where we have laying down the idea of the global transformation at scale, the global industry transformation at scale, starting from having a plan, that's what you guys have done, having a plan, a roadmap, understanding how to make progress, then understanding how we can work with the government and with the regulatory parties to actually make these technologies possible, make these technologies investable for the transformation, and then demonstrating that by making profit, I mean, you said private parties, private engagement. It's also about doing a good economic model and having return on investment, on mobilizing then the finance at scale so that we can actually invest in all these technologies and make it happen. And you see there on the left some of the example of cooperation we have with IFC, with the UNIDO, with things, working on making a project real in the different countries, in Thailand, in Latin America, on across the world. And I think, and I hope we will be continuing to work with, I'm sure we will be continuing with the Azerbaijan Cement Association to actually make that a reality and to transform and to make net zero reality in Azerbaijan. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Thomas. Thomas is a real passionate leader for the agenda and representing the industry on the global stage. It's now my great pleasure to introduce you to Martin Schneider. Martin is the Chief Executive of VDZ. It's been a pleasure to work with him over the last 5 or 6 years. Really, so VDZ is the Cement Association in Germany. But it's very much more than that. Under Martin's leadership of 20 years, it's really developed into a knowledge centre for the global industry. And Martin plays a real strategic role to many of the cement companies across the world. And he was instrumental in helping us to develop the global roadmap. So, Martin, thank you for that. Thank you for your support and leadership. And Martin will now take us through the Azerbaijan roadmap itself. Over to you, Martin.
Well, thank you so much, Paul, for this nice introduction. You know, here I am talking in my role as the CEO of ECRA, the European Cement Research Academy, you know, which we have had the pleasure to work together here with the Azerbaijani cement producer on this roadmap, the roadmap towards net zero CO2. Now, you wonder what is so specific about cement, and I mean, many of you are very familiar with cement and concrete, but just let me underline, you know, what is so important. You know, we start with concrete. Yeah, concrete is the building material in the world, and we have heard, you know, it's indispensable. And we need huge amount of concretes today, and we need also huge amount of concrete in the future. And concrete cannot be replaced by any other material. So as you all know, concrete is made of cement, and cement is the main and the most important ingredient in concrete. Now, why is cement so important here on COP? You know, why is cement so important when it comes to CO2? The thing is that, you know, I go through this flow chart here, you know, very quickly, not too much in detail, but cement is basically made from limestone and marl. These are natural materials, and we have heard here from previously, you know, in Azerbaijan, you know, it's limestone waste, you know, from materials taken, you know, out of the ground, from quarries next to the cement plant, and then produced to what is called clinker. And clinker is this famous material that has this inherent characteristics. Here, when you grind it and when you mix it with water, it hardens and it stays stable for 1,000 years. And this is the main ingredient of concrete. Now, this clinker is produced under specific conditions, under very high temperature. So we need a lot of energy for this. Yeah, and this energy, of course, produces CO2, for sure. Now, before I come back to this, you know, this clinker is then ground to cement, you know, this famous powder that we know. You know, it can be also slightly substituted with other materials, partially, yeah. And then, of course, it's the base for concrete. You mix it with sand and gravel, and then it hardens, you know, within an hour and forms concrete, and it's durable forever, basically. So that is the basis of our modern societies. Now, I've talked about this clinker burning process and the limestone as the starting material. The limestone is the starting material here, and the beauty is it's everywhere available. That's the beauty. You know, the challenge here for the industry is, and that is the reason why our industry is called a hard to abate sector, and this limestone is chemically calcium carbonate, as some of you may know. Yeah? And when you heat it, and we have to heat it, you know, we need this in our process, you know, then it releases CO2. Yeah? So we have a contribution from the limestone to the CO2 emissions, and we have a contribution, as I mentioned before, from the fuels. So we have two contributions first, you know, direct emissions at stake, to say so, you know, and this comes from the process, so that is 2/3 coming from the process and 1/3 is coming from the fuel. And in particular, the process emissions make the industry such a hard to abate industry. That is not to compare to most of the other industry, maybe the lime sector, but that is it. Now, if we look at the value chain here, what you can see here is, again, you know, from the left to the right, you know, how cement is, you know, to be seen along the value chain. So we start at the quarry, then the clinker burning process at high temperatures. It needs to be ground, the material, then it's produced to concrete, and then, you know, we have concrete in the built environment. Now, the clinker burning processes, as I said, you know, produces CO2, but also, and this is important, and we heard, you know, a couple of minutes ago here about the electrical energy, we also need a lot of electrical energy. And we need this for running the kilns, but mostly, you know, for grinding. You know, this cement is a fine powder, as finer as more reactive. That means, you know, we need to grind it, and grinding is crushing, and that needs a lot of electrical energy. And this energy, of course, you know, is produced somewhere in power plants, for example, and today, you know, is mostly fossil-based and releases also CO2. So the experts among you then know that we talk about so-called Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. The Scope 1s are the ones that we have directly in our plant, and the Scope 2 ones are the ones which are indirectly produced. And we have today here, you know, that, you know, also these indirect emissions are going to be decarbonized in the time to come. We have included this process here into this roadmap as well, but that has to be kept in mind. So as you can see here, we have the process emissions, we have the fuel emissions, and we have the indirect emissions. And this, of course, is the fact, the challenge, for the sector, to decarbonize in the future. That means to get rid of these emissions by 2050. Now, we have heard that the whole history has started in 2015, at the COP in Paris. It was agreed, to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees. And then, of course, the industry has started to work on this in many countries. On a global scheme, and I would like to come back to what you, Thomas, said, you have developed the global roadmap for the cement and concrete sector on Earth. And you have shown this slide here, and what you can see here is the CO2 emissions over time, and you can see here the contributions. The dotted blue line on top would be the business as usual scenario. That means on Earth, we still have a growing demand for construction, and if we were not doing anything, we still would need more concrete, we would still need more cement, and we would still release more CO2. So what you can see here is the different levers, what to do, to use the concrete more efficiently in buildings, and to use the cement more efficiently in concrete, and the clinker more efficiently in cement. So these are basically the steps that we have to undergo. And I will come into the details back in a minute, because I would like to show this here through an Azerbaijani focus. This is what we have developed here together, the pathways, which I will explain in a minute in many workshops here. So with the value chain, to say so. That means in particular the cement producers, but also representatives from state institutions, but also those, who apply our cement and concrete for construction. And Nariman is here today, and he is also, one of the users of concrete, and is very, very eager, to assure that he contributes, as a constructor to reduce the CO2 along the value chain. I'm not going through the details here, but we had a couple of workshops here that we worked on together. Now, we have, of course, looked at the industry as such, and I will not go too much into the detail here, but there's a document available here in which this is all described. We have looked at the cement portfolio, how it is today, and how it can be, more CO2 efficient in the future. We have looked how cement is applied, what is the potential, to make, most efficient use of cement in concrete. And then, of course, the same is, we had a focus on cement, on concrete as well. Now, but the main question is, and you remember the GCCA graph, the business as usual, if you look at Azerbaijan now, and you ask yourself, if we continue, and time will go, of course, what would be the cement demand in this country in 2030 and 2050? Because it is a starting point. This is the demand for construction, and there is still a growing demand for construction in this country, because there is still much to be built, and we heard about the infrastructure for renewable energy, for example, and this, of course, can only be built with concrete. So we have looked at, what is the expected cement consumption per capita in the time to come, and we developed a scenario, and it's clearly this country needs more than 50% more of cement or concrete first, and then cement in the time to come, if nothing would happen, if no levers of this pathway would have to be applied. Now the question is, from this starting point, what are the different levers? Because with this, of course, the CO2 emissions from the cement sector in Azerbaijan would add another 50% on top. Now the levers here in Azerbaijan, and most of the levers, of course, are familiar to some of you. Let me quickly go through this. So what are the savings in design and construction? I mean, we have looked together here with the construction sector, what is the potential here? And we have given, a figure to this, just indicating, what are the, there's a development also going on in construction, in the time till 2030 and 2050, there is a development, there's going to be more efficient use. and that, feeds back, of course, to a more efficient use of cement in concrete at the end. In concrete itself, the technology, and I will not go through the details here, but, it is expected, it is clear, and you can drive it as an industry, there is more efficiency gains to be taken in concrete. We all know that our sector is seen as somebody, developing slowly, and that is a good reason, because we always got to make sure that our buildings and infrastructures are safe, yeah, so this implies, that we take all the levers, to make concrete as efficient as possible, and this also contributes here to a saving of CO2 at the end. We have looked at cements. There are different kind of cement types already today, but there is a huge potential in order to optimize the cement. That means reduce the clinker content in cement and substitute other cementitious materials. And I will come back to this in a couple of minutes. Now I will not gonna bore you with too many details here and slides. You can all is readable. Afterwards, all the information is available. There, Paul has a copy of this. You'll be happy to take one at the end. So what you can see here is the development, and how we analyze the amount of cement being produced today. And it starts on the left side, with clinker. And to be honest, we have also included the exported clinker, yeah, because this also creates CO2, although, the cement is not used domestically, but it's also part of the whole journey here, yeah. So all emissions are covered. Now you can see there is this increase for the business as usual, and then you break down the different levers and you end up with still slightly more cement here in this country to be needed in 2050, even after all these efficient levers are applied. However, the clinker is less, yeah, because we have higher what we call clinker efficiency in tomorrow's cement. Yeah, and I know that many of the companies here in the room are already working today very intensively, to reduce the clinker. We call it the clinker factor in cement, and that specifically reduce the CO2 emissions per ton of cement. Now, the remaining part, of course, in our hands is now, when you look at the clinker, what can we do? And one of the really low-hanging fruits is to apply alternative fuels. And some of you know what alternative fuels are. Others may wonder, what we are using in many parts of the world are wastes, and we heard, a couple of minutes ago, also in Azerbaijan, you are starting this journey. Pre-treat them and, substitute fossil fuels in the respective kilns. So that's what we do globally. And what is the beauty of this? So now, if the wastes are, instead continue to be landfilled, they rotten and they emit. They have emissions, and these emissions are typically methane. And methane is an even more and severe climate gas, as compared to CO2. So what you do if you substitute this by, just, using this material as an alternative fuel in cement kilns, you avoid quite a bit of emissions at other places. So that is the philosophy, behind this. And we have anticipated here in this country what is called a substitution rate. Yeah, so a degree of alternative materials from waste to replace fossil fuel, which is gas in your case here, in 2050. And that is an ambitious target. Technically, of course, the plants have to adapt to this, with burners and calciners and things like this. But, what is needed is a framework, a waste management framework, which I know are already working on. I will come back to this in a few minutes. Now, the real challenge, and we heard about this a minute ago, is, there are still at the very end, there are remaining CO2 emissions which we cannot avoid. They cannot be substituted by something else. The question is what to do, and that is one of the reasons why cement is a hard to abate sector. And we heard, that carbon capture is going to be the solution. If we don't want to release these emissions to the atmosphere anymore, then of course, pardon me? Yeah, sure. Super. Somebody recognized the plant here. So Yeah, I know. So there's a need for carbon capture. Now you may consider this as a long-term and future-oriented technology, which is true, you know, and there's quite a bit of effort to be done, huge investments, huge operational cost. But this is part of the whole value chain. You know, if we ignore this, you know, that would not be a credible roadmap. Yeah, and I know that you already start working on this and try to gain experience from other parts of the world. A short, you know, on the secondary emissions, you know, from the 300 gigawatt, you know, renewable energy to be installed here in Azerbaijan, as we heard a minute ago, quite a bit is needed for this transformation in the cement sector. We need renewable energy, we need electricity from renewable energy in the industry in order to reduce our scope 2 emissions. Now, this is exactly the same design as we have it on the global level, that we have seen it from Thomas a couple of minutes ago and from myself. This is the situation in Azerbaijan. So I will not go through the details here, but what you can really see is, you know, the different levers to be applied here, you know, and at the end, you know, the aim is by 2050 to become net zero, yeah, in the Azerbaijani cement and concrete sector. This is a busy slide, and I will not go through the details here, of course, but this is just to underline, you know, that all the numbers have been supported, of course, with dedicated data, which we together worked out in the different workshops, you know, and it's all in the document, and it can be read by you in due time. Now, the main elements here, you know, and what they comprise, you know, the main levers are on this slide here. And again, you know, I would not like to go through the details here. But we have for each of these pathways, you know, not only defined, you know, what are the CO2 amounts that can be saved, you know, but also we have here, you know, combined in the roadmap, you know, what are the individual measures, you know, and what you have to work on. And the most important is, you know, what to do first, you know, what is the action plan? And of course, low-hanging fruits are alternative fuels, clinker factor reduction, in concrete design, and at the end carbon capture. And there are many things, you know, that you can really here look at, and what is important to be done, you know. And that is a recommendation now to the association, but also, you know, in cooperation with the governmental institutions to work on this. And there's a huge potential to start now already. Yeah, still keeping in mind that at a given time, you know, this is a very important topic, of course, as well, you know, which is probably the biggest challenge here, the carbon capture one. You know, but nevertheless, you know, this is the full value chain here that needs to be taken into account. Final slide is, you know, this is a big transformation, yeah, and you know, this is a transformation which our sector can really contribute to, also here in Azerbaijan. But you know, the industry is not able to do this by itself. You know, it needs support. You know. Let's start with the waste fuels. You know, there must be a zero waste policy. There must be a polluter pay principle to be introduced. There must be waste management to make it happen. You know, these are just keywords, you know, to underline that we need the support also here from the policy framework, for example. When we come up with clinker efficient cements, we got to make sure that the standards, you know, comprise these clinker efficient cement, and not only in cement but also in concrete and in the future building codes. Yeah, this is nothing that is impossible, but it needs to be done because, you know, the application of cement and concrete needs a sound building code and standard framework. We talked about green energy. One word to procurement. You know, it's important, of course, you know, that these green products, and it's cement, concrete, and buildings, you know, are going to be pulled from the market. So there must be something, you know, that an incentive, for example, in public procurement, that, you know, that these kind of infrastructures, buildings which are based on these kind of roadmap ideas, you know, are, you know, finding their ways in the market. And then we have, you know, construction and demolition materials. We should not forget, you know, that of course we have quarries, yeah, but we have also, you know, materials, mineral materials, you know, in our living in our built environment. You know, when we take this down because we build new, yeah, this material can be fully recycled. And I would like to underline, you know, that, you know, most parts of this can be used in concrete, but also in cement, especially the fine parts can be used in cement, you know, and the cement standards are ready for this. And I would really like to underline construction and demolition materials will have a bright future also in our industry. I talked about the legal framework, you know, the COP I think is a very good, you know, starting point, you know, the NDC for Azerbaijan is a very important point to be further developed here. There's still, you know, some legislation pending, as I know, and finally we need infrastructure for carbon capture. And infrastructure means not only a physical infrastructure, but, you know, a political infrastructure. Investment is needed, for example, support is needed, and a long-term vision. Now, having said this, I would like to thank very much, you know, the cement producers here and Israel from the association for the kind support. It was a great cooperation, and, you know, it was fantastic. I wish you all the way, you know, for the next steps to be taken. Thank you so much.
Perfect timing, true German efficiency, Martin, bravo. I saw lots of people taking pictures of the slides. Just to remind, we are recording this event and we'll be putting it on the GCCA website. We definitely implore you, though, to have a look at the roadmap. It's on the Azerbaijan Cement Association's website. And you can get a link to that as well from the GCCA. So do try and find and have a look at all of the information, and also have a look, you know, to share this amazing launch event with your peers and with your colleagues. So we've heard from a number of different speakers, but what about the users of cement and concrete? I now want to introduce you to Nariman Topçabashev, who is the chief executive of PMD Projects, which is one of the biggest construction companies here in Azerbaijan. Nariman has worked in the construction sector all his career, as working in various roles. He's got a degree and a background in civil engineering and has also studied at Harvard, and he's got real pride in starting at quite small construction companies now to big multinational organizations such as PMD. So it's really interesting, I think, to hear from his perspective. So Nariman, can I invite you up to say a few words, please?
Thank you. This one. Hamid, assalamu alaikum. Not in the middle. In the middle. Okay. A special one. It's a sustainable microphone. You remove your hand, it stops working. So cool. So before I go to the presentation, this presentation I already presented 4 times during the COP. So it's the same words. I almost know it by heart. First, I would like to share my impression from COP and what I gained. I already shared this last time, and today also in the morning in Chinese pavilion. And I believe it's very good for me as a citizen and a professional in my area, in our sector. I believe it will be useful for you as well. So some time ago, we started this journey for sustainable construction. And it was actually the idea of our SWOT analysis and thinking how PMD projects can be competitive in international markets. So we came up with the idea that sustainable construction might be the added value. Otherwise, to come like in Turkey or some other region, come and compete with construction companies will be very difficult. But if we are sustainable, it might work, because not everybody thinking about sustainability. So we started our journey approximately a year and a half ago, and then suddenly we find out that there is a COP29 actually happening in Azerbaijan. So we together with different associations, also with Cement Association and others, with ASİA, AmCham and other NGOs, we tried to come to a position where we can put ourselves in the market as sustainable construction company. So this led us to several outcomes, as well as COP29, what's happening here, is understanding what means sustainability and what it demands from us as a professionals in our sectors, as a citizens, as a human beings. So when we talk about sustainability, and in many, many pavilions we see the same, everybody says we have to go green, we have to do it more sustainable, we have to stop fossil fuels, other things, and now we realize that cement cannot be net zero, but we have to go towards net zero. So there will be some portion which, as Mr. Henning likes to say, we will capture or do something. Carbon capture or storages, I don't know. Maybe we send it to the moon, so, or to the Mars, I don't know. So, but it's still, construction industry depends on the raw materials. So we as a builders, we don't produce. We produce buildings. We use rebar, reinforcements, we use cement, concrete, we use a lot of petrochemical materials, we use gases and other things, and many things combined together, and then we have a nice building, skyscrapers, glass facades, I don't know, aluminium curtain wall systems. Inside we have a lot of fan coils, equipments, blah, blah, blah, and they're all, we find the solution when they come to be a cost effective. And now when we say about sustainability, we talk about capexes, lots of money to be invested in the cement factories to become more, to change the fuel, make the fuel, how you call it, Mr. Henning? Fuel, alternative fuels. So then it means we have to spend more money. What happens when we spend more money to the raw materials? Price of building cost increases. Yes, we can use recycled materials. So we can use different technologies to reduce, make it more cost effective. But at the end, it all comes to the end user. At the moment, the user of cement is us, but the end user is everybody. Because we are buying apartments, we are living in these places, we are using the heating, we are using cooling, we are using transport, we're using parking lots and other things. And we all want the best one, the good quality. We want also the good quality, big areas, but cheaper. So we all have to understand as end users, at the end we have to pay for this. So to pay less, we have to create a demand, competitiveness. As users of apartments and even in the building construction, as we are builders, we try to come to our vendors and say, guys, we want more sustainable products. Like we use cobblestone because it has a good thermal conductivity and it helps us a lot to maintain the buildings. Because we have maintenance in the buildings, we take care of equipment we buy. So we buy the best equipment, so we spend less money for maintenance. We don't spend lots of electricity and other things. So everybody in his sector have to think about it. And first of all, as a citizens, we have to think, or citizens of the earth, I mean, not only Azerbaijan, but overall, as a human being, we have to demand sustainable products, sustainable areas, sustainable cars, sustainable apartments, sustainable buildings. And then we can achieve what we need to achieve. So this is my outcome. I hope it's useful. So as PMD projects, we are part of construction industry, which is 38% of all world's CO2 emission. Carbonization in construction is actually the process of finding the best ways of design and optimizing the ways, trying to bring new technologies to make it less carbon emissions. So we use different methodologies like Primavera. We plan everything. We make manpower loaded programs. We plan it day by day, hour by hour. Many people, even today, we make really big progresses in small times by planning each activity and loading the exact resources needed. If we do this, it gives a good progress and you spend less efforts, less resources. Less resources means less carbon emissions. The next thing is the transportation. Also, we have GPS trackers, not only our cars and trucks and plants, but also the contractors. We try to also minimize the CO2 emission. We have waste management issues, not only in Baku, but other places. We have signed the MOU. We are partnered with Tamiz Shahar, and we're gonna use their materials which are recycled. We're gonna start using in our projects. We plan now to make another recycling plant in liberated areas by ourselves, only for ourselves, to start using our own recycled materials in our sites. Then when it comes to the certification, if you know, there is a new document issued by the National Bank of Azerbaijan. It's called taxonomy. I don't know if you are familiar. There is a part for construction. It says clearly, if you don't achieve the certification, if you don't apply the sustainable design, you will have to pay special tax. I don't know how it's going to work and when it starts to work. We just saw the document, maybe from New Year, I don't know. But this is what we also try to achieve by issuing white papers, issuing position papers for last couple years, saying that the certification for sustainability has to be the key. And if we achieve this in the future, this will make people understand and make developers go to it. And this will give us an opportunity to drop down embedded carbon as well. So as a PMD projects and as PMD group, we make the initiative, first one from private sector with Mr. Orhan. Thanks to Mr. Orhan and Ms. Alida and Ms. Nigar, they helped us a lot. We made a continuation of the Built Environment Pledge, which was signed in UAE at COP28, and it will be signed in Brazil at COP30, at a Troika format. So 12 developers of Azerbaijan, several of them were governmental developers. So it's mostly like 85% of buildings built by these developers. We signed a pledge where we promise that we're going towards net zero and we will use the sustainability or sustainable products. We'll try to minimize our carbon emissions. Then there is several one of them is this, how to achieve the green financing, what we can do and how we can move forward on this. But we keep posting. Actually, it's not our job, but we're trying to be responsible as a private sector to issue different ideas, how we can help private sector, especially in the construction and construction material sector, to achieve their goals in sustainability. So we, every month, every 2 months, we provide some position papers, some articles, not only ours, but we arrange the meetings, workshops, them to be done. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I'll ask you to join the panel as well, so if you take a seat. So we've heard about the details of the roadmap. We've heard from the global cement industry, but what we haven't heard from yet are the leaders of the cement industry here in Azerbaijan. But just before we start the panel, I want to ask the CEOs just to stand up. We're going to take a sort of formal picture with Nariman, with Ilham as well, and with Martin just across here. Israel, if you could also come and quickly join us, just bear with us for a moment while we take this formal photo. So just... Yep. Everybody say roadmap. Net zero. Yay, net zero.
Okay, I think another one.
Net Zero Cement.
Fantastic.
So if you all just take your seats, we'll get back to the event. I'll just scroll through a number of these. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, indeed. While I'm scrolling through, do pick up a copy of the roadmap. Here we are. Right, what a distinguished panel we have. I want to introduce you. We've heard from Ilham earlier. We've also heard from Nariman, but I want to introduce the CEOs as well of the association, the Cement Association here in Azerbaijan. Henning Sase, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Norm. Khalid Samakar, the Chief Executive of Holcim in Azerbaijan. Kamil Karimov, who is the CEO at Reges Cement, and Murat Kaglayan, who is the CEO of Arkoz Cement. So a really distinguished panel, and they've really led this amazing piece of work. And you know, so we're here to talk about the launch. I've got a few questions. We've heard before I go back to the ministry. I do want to just hear a perspective from the CEOs. I'll ask Henning first, I think. Henning, why now? Why have you sort of come together to collaborate now on this roadmap?
Yeah, why now? Of course, it's also COP29, I would say, which I think we have discussed this as an association, as the cement makers here in Azerbaijan, I think already 2 years ago. I think your methodology exists since almost 4 years now, I think, and we already thought about, shall we do this also in Azerbaijan? But we never came to a conclusion. But then when COP29 was announced, then I think we all said, we have to do it. It's a unique opportunity. It's also a unique, in a way, obligation. And I think we, as producers here in Azerbaijan, we can also be proud that we can present this now in this frame of this conference here in Azerbaijan. It was not an easy job, but we were on time, and now we are ready. And I think it's also important for a country like Azerbaijan to show that local initiatives are possible, and also to showcase these initiatives here at COP29.
Excellent. And Khaled, we heard about collaboration from the high-level champion. We've heard it from Iliam as well. How important is it for you to collaborate with the remainder of the industry, your competitors, some would say, but also as well with other partners in the value chain?
Yeah, sure. It's important. We cannot do it alone. You know, as part of Holcim Group, we have the pledge to reach net zero by 2050. But here locally, we cannot do it alone. So when this opportunity came, we discussed it in February this year. So it was really an opportunity to work together, to collaborate together, and you know, I would like to highlight the agility of the oil companies. You know, we started in February. We heard each other. We aligned ourselves on where we want to go, how to implement it. We chose ECRA to accompany us. We chose the GCCA approach to implement. And right now we are in November, so 9 months later, we already formalized our roadmap. So between February and November, we had many workshops, you know, internal workshops between our employees, you know, working together, you know, on the different streams. Workshops listening to our main stakeholders, government agencies, you know, construction companies. It was really quite busy, but I liked very much to see how our employees were excited and motivated to work together, to join forces all together. So we are competitors on the market, we are competing, but for this one we are working as an association, you know, because it's one goal. We aligned ourselves on and our teams, you know, continue to work on it. And right now we have this net zero roadmap. It's not the end, it's just the starting point. So a lot still is to be done. And yes, we are looking forward to have the first achievements following this net zero roadmap of the Cement Association of Azerbaijan.
Indeed, it's an amazing piece of work, but I've heard just the beginning. And Iliam, over to you. So from your perspective, from the government's perspective, how important is it that the industry's got together to make this announcement today?
Well, as it was said, it is the right time. As we all understand that we are being late, and the sooner we move, the better, of course. The Paris climate goal is very challenging to meet, but we have to act actually not today, we have to act yesterday. So the sooner and the more bolder we act, the better, of course. If Azerbaijan is concerned, we have got roadmap of economic growth adopted in 2022, and it covers bless you. It covers years from 22 to 26, and there are clear goals there. So is it like, there are clear goals there how to move, and I think cement industry is well represented as and is well mentioned in there. So that's basically what we see as the role of government, to put clear targets, to put clear goals, to help with regulations, and in that sense, in sense of regulations and legislations, we need your help as well from industry, because this should be interactive process. We need feedback from industry to tailor better laws and better regulations. And we also think that we can help with access to finance. That's one more thing that the government can do. We do get approached by multilateral financial institutions that are keen on green initiatives, they're keen on financing green projects in Azerbaijan. And which, of course, we can help with domestic commercial banks as well. So, talking about what we can do, what we can contribute here as the government, I think that's basically what I would say. Also, we can help with skills, with green skills. I think the government can facilitate educating greener skilled personnel, greener skilled people through universities, through schools and colleges. So if that answers your question, I would stop there. And
no, that's fantastic, and thank you for your leadership. Getting the right regulations, whether it's the norms and the standards, providing the leadership as well is really important. But Khalid, whilst you're next to the representative from the ministry, maybe you could highlight some examples of what kind of regulations can really help accelerate decarbonisation of the sector.
I want to tell that till today, as a cement producer, we made some works for that issue, for reducing the CO2, for reducing emissions, CO2 emissions, as cement manufacturers. But I want to underline that we did it individually. I'm sure I can give some examples. For example, by the way, our company built in 2011, and for the previous years, we, for example, we reduced the clinker proportion. What does that mean? That means to reduce carbon dioxide, and for example, we reduce the gas consumption in the process. This also means that reducing emissions. But we did it all individually. But beginning of this year, we come together as four cement producers in Azerbaijan. Come together. First, we built association, and then we start that program. Now we decided to apply this program together. We decide to minimize that emission reducing, and we made some program. We discussed it. We talked about this program. Mr. Martin talked detailedly about this program. Now, till today, till that COP, this event, we work on that program. We discuss, now our roadmap is ready, and then now it's time to take actions. Now I want to let you know that we will start to work on this, to do some things on this. We are, of course, it needs some investment, it needs some works, and we are ready for this. But I want to say that we couldn't do it alone. I mean, just for the cement processor, we need some government supports and construction company supports, and I'm sure we will achieve this aim, this goal. That's all.
That's fantastic that you're saying you need support from government, also support from the construction industry. Perfect, because you're sandwiched between those two leaders of the sector. So I'll ask about, from a construction perspective, how ready are you to start buying lower carbon cement and concrete?
We are not ready. Because, as I told previously, it all comes to the cost effectiveness. If the clients, the buyers who are sitting in front of me now, if they buy apartments more expensive because it's sustainable, then it might work. But at the moment, it's not the case. So we all have to go towards it. There are the many regulations. You previously asked the question. It also comes to the real estate development as well. Many regulations or rules or plans. I see here also from Shah Salma are participating here. So they know as well that we are keeping like everybody, and also there not only we are trying to achieve this, but if we change the regulation for everybody, because the cement association is done, now I am envy because we don't have a construction or builders association yet. We have a construction materials association, producers, but cement producers. But there is no, now I am very envy. Now after we finish COP, I'm going to deal with that, have an association of builders and try to put forward that the developers have to come to a sustainable construction, and this has to be a rule. And then it will be much easier for the not only cement producers but all other areas to produce sustainable materials, to build sustainable buildings and make it carbon emissions down and go towards net zero.
So yeah, absolutely. So it's good to hear that you're inspired by the cement industry. And Henning wants to, I think, come back to you about maybe procurement and putting a carbon price. Okay, yes, please. Indeed. Go, Henning.
You know, there's the assumption that if cement becomes more or becomes CO2 free step by step, and if we reduce our CO2 footprint in our product, that the cost will increase. I have to counter this perception here a little. Based on what we know today, probably if one day also in Azerbaijan we do carbon capture and storage, then cost will probably increase. I think this is the assumption. But until then, we have options to improve without cost increase. I don't want to go into detail here, but these options exist with using alternative fuels, using alternative raw materials, with reducing the clinker factor, with, applying our cement and the concrete in construction more efficiently. What is missing there so far is a collaboration and the implementation of best practices. And now after COP29, I fully agree with you, we have to work together. We have to also work with the government. We have to implement relevant standards that these technologies can be applied and so on. So maybe in the end, one day, also in Azerbaijan, we want to achieve net zero. Maybe then we have a cost increase. But until then, we can do a lot of things, I think, without a cost increase of our product. This is my assumption.
So it's really important that you mention that, sort of some lower hanging fruit, but that just by working together, better practices, some good regulations, we can drive things forward in this next decade to deliver. So we've heard about some of the challenges. Murat, what about the opportunities? How, kind of optimistic here you are that that you as an industry, as a business, can begin to decarbonize and deliver a net zero future?
First sentence can be said that it will be not worse than today. Because there are two different steps, two different issues we can approach it. The government side and the producers. The producer side until now share too many knowledge, exchange too many experience. So the producer technical side is the most lucky group because the thermodynamic rules are very clear. Heat transfer, mass transfer, everything is very clear. And we know that our action plans what will we do for the future, and identified all items. We know our goals, our targets, so we can share with our team. So how can I say, our inside planning is under our control. And I believe that the cement world believe that roadmap and forcing by themselves. So that's why the first step, the producer sides are improving their abilities and approaches. The government side, especially after this type of international organization, we can see that easily. The main goal is the same. They are trying to best solution and the easiest solution maybe. But the most difficult part, financial sources. In time, as mentioned, Henning Mellem, we have to be careful about our costs, and government side try to find suitable finance sources for us. I believe that it can be combined together, because this is sustainability subjects. This is not any political issue. This is not any complicated issues. Very clear. We have to do it together to better and green world future. So I believe that will be not worse. I am sure that will be better.
We love that answer. Confidence and optimism for the future, but hard work ahead, no question. So we've got a really distinguished panel here. I'm going to open it to the floor if we have any questions. When I pass the mic to you, if you say your name and just a brief question as well, if you would, and hold the mic like I am.
Yes, my name is Pauline. I work for Perspectives Climate Group, and I'm also part of CCS Plus initiative. And so I wanted to slightly say that there is a possibility to get revenue for CCS, even though the cost is very high, but that's why we are making these methodologies as well. So I actually came here to see if there was interest from people to join our initiative, but then I will talk about that later. But carbon markets are open now to CCS, and this will help, because I don't think you can wait, let's say, 20 years to start implementing CCS. You have to do that a little bit earlier, because the lead times are quite long. So it was actually not a question, it was just an add to the comment.
Okay, well, the great news is I represent the global industry, and there is a tremendous amount happening on CCUS. There's a number of projects and pilots that are already underway. The first commercial scale, industrial scale plant will open in Norway next year, producing Net Zero Cement. But of course, we've got to, in this decade to deliver, prepare the rollout right across the globe, and carbon pricing, carbon markets will all play a critical role. Does anybody want to, from the panel, respond to the observation here on CCUS, the longer term? But the longer term is now, of course. I think Henning wants to say something.
No, just a short answer. I mean, we all here in Azerbaijan now very busy in preparing COP29. We were actually, I see now no one here, let's say, from the oil and gas side, or SOCA here, but we have some plans to sit together after COP29 and already look at these options. And maybe what you mentioned is one option, to sit together and see what is possible there in the country. As it was said, by the way, also by Martin, Azerbaijan is an oil and gas country. The technical knowledge in Azerbaijan, I think, is there. We also have Holcim, I think. You are doing on an international level, you do carbon capture projects. I think also on the cement side, the knowledge is there. We have to see how we can do something like this in Azerbaijan, but we will work on this.
No, just I wanted to come back to this cost and pricing topic. Okay, so for sure, okay, it's we should not associate, net zero with cost increase. Okay, but nevertheless, we should promote the low carbon products. Okay, and we should have them like premium versus the normal products. Okay, so this is one. The second thing is that when it comes to environment and climate change, maybe pricing should not be the first, factor of decision making. Okay, at some time when we buy an apartment, okay, there is not only the price, but there is the size, the comfort, the location, and so on. So low carbon product or certified buildings should be also, part of the decision making. So this was one important point that I wanted to highlight. And this actually, listening to you, that 12 of the construction companies here in Azerbaijan pledged to go for sustainable building, and those 12 companies are representing 85% of the construction in Azerbaijan. This is really great to hear, and it's and with this dynamic and this momentum, actually, because once again, we cannot do alone as a company. Okay, we did it now together as an association of cement, but even the association of cement, we cannot do it alone. But when we see you also downstream the value chain, you are going towards the sustainable building. So we are confident that actually we will have more chance to achieve it together.
Thank you very much. I want to say also for what Henning said and you said and this nice lady said, the issue is before we move, as Mr. Henning said, before we move to the net zero process, we have 2/3 of emissions only in cement. Then if we go to the rebar or petrochemical equipment or other things, there are lots of things can be dropped down. So we have to aim towards it, to come to do things which are not cost related, which can be easily done. Like if you make a fuel alternative or other things, we can easily come to a point which other countries already came. So we have to use this know-how and come to the point. One thing I want to mention, I forgot to say, we as a PMD, we plan to make several pilot projects to build net zero building, maybe low carbon building and or green passive house in different dimensions. So we're making a decision during the COP. Most probably we'll announce next week that we're going to start building a project to show off how much it will cost, what does it make, and what effect it can make to the not only environment but also to the market. So it may work as well to see, do we need actually carbon credit or not? Do we need a special cement or not? And this will come to a point where we realize.
I mean, the world will need low carbon net zero concrete as we move forward. I see one of our GCCA members from India, Mr. Singhi from Dalmia, across here, I think, who wants to make an intervention.
Happy afternoon, everyone. Just one comment on carbon capture, utilization and storage. In fact, many companies around the world, and that too, with the support by which we could think about this, ECRA and GCCA. So we are looking at, particularly in India, the methodology for carbon credit, because we have identified technologies, both for capture also and utilization also. But since we feel that, yes, we may require $80 to $100 as a price of carbon credit for implementing CCU or CCS. So I think it will be great, like what you said just now, that methodology is being prepared. So as soon as possible, it becomes visible and practical. I think it's not Azerbaijan or India or China, but almost all cement manufacturers, because the way GCC has also been able to get commitment of, let us say, 80% of the global cement capacity other than China. So I think it will go a great way, and then net zero carbon we definitely can achieve. That is one. And secondly, I would like to compliment Azerbaijan Cement Association for creating such a roadmap, which will also be a good guidance for many, many countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Singhi, for the congratulations. And actually, I think we can close the panel here. We have one final question. Okay, a short one. Relatively short. Okay, please say who you are.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ali Husseinov, Technical Director, Holcim Azerbaijan. So what I heard here that we discussed about low carbon products and input from the side of producers. We discussed about input of the sites who builds, who is doing construction part. But what I think is important also that we need to have some inputs coming from government side when low CO2 products will be included in the projects. Until this is included in the project, it will be difficult to promote, it will be difficult to communicate, and in my opinion, unless it comes from government side in the project phase, it will be how to say, let's make it short that it should come from government side also, and it will boost the process, and otherwise it could take longer time and it will be difficult to convince people. So this is just a proposal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A very brief response. We can continue the conversation for another hour, but on the formal panel, final answer to Iliam from the Ministry of Ecology.
Understood. Well, thank you very much for the question or suggestion that you make. I think we should get together at some point and discuss what kind of low emission products you are thinking of. And of course, as we say, government is backing all initiatives that are leading to low emissions. And from our side, expectation is that you guys in the industry will invest in greener technologies, will invest in new technologies and make the production greener and make the production more efficient. As the colleague said, there's a concern about higher costs, but if you try to optimize the costs and try to build more efficient production, you can easily, well, maybe not so easily, but you can definitely get to more, get to better economy, get to better commercial results. I just try to cover both things.
No, indeed, and let's stop there. We've heard today cement and concrete vital for the world, for the modern world, and the challenges that we face going forward. We've heard about the global commitment and now the Azerbaijan commitment from the industry, the collaboration with governments, with the construction chain, and we all now need to, well, we start from here. So I want to thank everybody for attending in person and online. I want to thank our speakers, and I want to thank, of course, the Azerbaijan Cement Association for their leadership here in Azerbaijan. So thank you.
Paul, thank you very much for a great job, good moderating and facilitating this discussion. Thanks.